Good morning, everyone. My name is Arabel Grace G. Ranas, and I'm going to report the first part of Rizal's changing view on Spanish rule, which is the indolence of the Filipinos. Objectives. By end of this lesson, you should able to discuss the reasons that Rizal gave why Filipinos were predisposed to laziness, defend the allegation of Filipino indolence in modern times, and explain Rizal's position that reform and independence were not mutually exclusive. The indolence of the Filipinos. The indolence of the Filipinos, or La Indolence de los Filipinos, is a study of the causes of the people's not working hard during the Spanish regime. It is an essay written by Dr. Rizal published in La Solidaridad in 1890. It deals with the social political matters or setup of the Filipinos in defense of the accusation that the Indios or Malays were indolent or lazy people. Rizal cited factors that contributed to Filipinos' indolence, such as abuses, discrimination, passive governance, corruption, wrist tape, baseless dogma of church, and wrong illustration from some Spaniards. Rizal believed that to find cure to indolence, one must admit having such dilemma. Thus, he agreed with the prior writing of Gregorio Sanchenko, which depicted indolence among Filipinos. Rizal acknowledged the prior work of Gregorio Sanchenko and admits that indolence does exist among the Filipinos, but it cannot be attributed to the troubles and backwardness of the country. Rather, it is the effect of the backwardness and troubles experienced by the country. Rizal enumerated the factors that cause indolence. First, climate. Filipinos could not compare their working hours with those of the Spaniards because the Philippines had a hotter weather than Spain. A whole day of labor in Spain was equivalent to an hour of labor in the Philippines in terms of climate. Second, Filipinos had been doing trade within the region and neighbor countries. Some were engaged in agriculture and mining, and some spoke Spanish before the arrival of the Spaniards. When the Spanish came, the economic activity of the country declined. The Spanish government implemented damaging policies on trade, taxes, and business which urged the natives to abandon such economic engagement. According to Rizal, the decrease in the economic engagement of the natives was due to the following reasons. First, establishment of the galleon trade. It ended the Philippine trade among Asian and Middle East nations and boasted the mobilization of businesses by Spanish officials. This caused the closure of small businesses of the natives. Second, forced labor. Implementing forced labor called for men to work without pay to shipyard and public works, abandoning their agricultural lands. It molded Filipinos to become mere slaves of the Spaniards by not allowing them to conduct their own businesses. Third, lack of government protection against pirates. Natives were not able to receive protection from the Spanish government in the pursuit of trade. Hence, trades were attacked by pirates and were defenseless, leaving trade behind because of bankruptcy caused by invaders. Fourth, twisted educational system. Natives got limited education and were treated inferior to the Spaniards. Educational system was full of racism, separating Filipinos from Spaniards and providing them with low quality education, which focused only on religion and not on technical aspects like agriculture or industry. Fifth, Spaniards' wrong idea towards work. Spaniards became a living example of going to work late and leaving early without accomplishing anything relevant to their task. Filipinos served as personal servants who followed them wherever they went and did things which they could do on their own, hence showing an image of laziness. 6. Rampant gambling. Many officials spent money on cockfighting during fiestas and engaging in gambling, which shattered the economic set of the Philippine government. 7. Wrong religion belief. Friars manipulated the natives by claiming that heaven was easier to enter when one is poor, thus discouraging them from working hard enough to uplift their status. Extremely high taxes. The Spanish government imposed from doing extremely high taxes, which led to the discouragement of many Filipinos' trade, business, and agriculture, and keep the poor native even poorer. That's all my report. Thank you.
During the Spanish regime, farming was a risky occupation. Filipino farmers had to deal with players and calamities and tyranny of the oppressors and robbers. So, in the olden days, farming was dangerous because the manager of the Spanish period abused the farmer. When faced with tyrant leader and robbers, they were voiceless in Spanish government. Farmers back he had to deal with the lack of laborer caused by forced labors of the Spaniards. So, lahat ng farmers noon, wala silang magawa kasi at hindi sila makapagsalita na inabuso na sila.
There were instances when a capitalist farmers, laborers, were arrested for a baseless reason. For a capitalist who was a peaceful taxpayer to use firearms and to be able to defend himself, he needed a good report from the people, the civil guard, and the parish priest to petition the government. So, the government was viewed to have continued with such reverse to impose the new agricultural system, providing too much obstacles to farmers so that farmers would plant in according with the new system. The government back then was ridiculous and caused damage to the country.
Good morning, sir. My name is Joan Tumobag, and my topic for today is about El Demonio de las Comparaciones. After Rizal published his novel Meet Hungary in 1897, Jose Rizal, as well as Del Pilar, Lopez Jaina, and Antonio Luna had a promising political career as they interacted with the European oligarchs and somehow tried to influence numerous high-ranking people to sympathize with their desire to free the Filipino people. They had a feeling of uplifting the Filipinos by integrating foreign ideas and ways into the Philippines.
Romancing nature in Rizal's Brindis. On Rizal's Antonish speech about the equality of Spaniards and Filipinos, namely the Brindis earned him the title of filibustero. In the Brindis, Rizal's prized natures in the topics as alongside disastrous and tranquil, magnificent and terrible. Rizal had also seen the vitality of being positively motivated by what inspired one most to real a desirable end of favor of one's dream, just like Hidalgo and Luna, geniuses in the field of art. Aguilar, 2016. Also, according to Rizal, as quote, genius has no country, genius sprout everywhere, genius is like the light and air, the heritage of everyone, cosmopolitan, like space, like life, and like God.
Hi guys, good morning. My name is Mylene Buseso. My report is about the Rizal's abandonment of assimilation. In 19th century, two myths about Rizal's standing regarding the Philippine nationalist movement drew attention from the masses. The first myth stated that Rizal was one of the middle-class men. The second myth was Rizal's contradiction to the ways of the Katipunero led by Bonifacio. The Katipunan was an organization of the uneducated and unfortunate people. A critical examination of Rizal's correspondence 1887 to 1892, could better explain the first myth in 1887. Two letters Rizal wrote to his friend and mentor Ferdinand Blumentritt, a German scholar, depicted his desire to break free bloodlessly from the colonizers. On the 21st day of February, the Filipino had long wished for Hispanization, and they were wrong in aspiring for it. January 26, 1887, a peaceful struggle shall always be a dream, for Spain will never learn the lesson of her South American colonies. Ruth Roland, 1969, 58 to 59, an American author who has three misquoted lines of Rizal's letters. Important Latin line that Roland omitted was Cus Volt Perdiri Jupiter Prius Dementat. April 4, 1890, another letter containing Rizal's point of view on independence was again written to Del Pilar. Mi ultimo adios was Rizal's last testament. Sin dudas was translated by quotes into without hesitation or thought for the consequence. Thank you.
Nick Watkins' translation of Rizal's Spanish line of Sin Dudas, Sin Pisar to without doubt, without gloom. Matamis sa puso at di ikahapis. Bonifacio's translation of the last untitled poem of Rizal, 1963. The Writings and Trial of Andres Bonifacio, edited by Teodoro Agoncillo. 1986, digging deeper into the sequence of events that took place for an analysis free from limitation of its seating. Rizal leaves his family a farewell present, the agony of the garden sketch to his beloved Josephine. He left Kempis la imitación del Cristo. Consumatum est, Jesus' last word were heard from Rizal's lips. Rizal was exiled in Guam because of his refusal to take an oath of allegiance to America. Mabini viewed Rizal as a brave. Martyrdom has always played a vital role in the Philippines revolutionary custom, from Hermano Pile 1840 to Felipe Salvador 1910 to Tatang de los Santos 1967, and to the three secular priests Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora who were executed in 1872. Rizal's last poem later became the rallying cry of Katipunero. Rizal's martyrdom on mark his apotheosis as the Tagalog Christ.
The visceral strangeness of Spain. The Ilustrados' extreme and idealistic desire for the tropics and for a tropical climate show their feeling of longing for their homeland and tropical environment where they were raised during their younger years. Since the Ilustrados' longing for the tropical climate in their homeland, they looked back in the times when they were young. The visceral experience of the Ilustrados, namely Rizal, Luna, and Del Pilar, gave them an unsatisfactory, strange, and alienating feeling towards Spain. The tropics serves as a strong motivator of longing for home. It had also marked the Ilustrados' political estrangement and disappointment toward the Spanish lives that lowered the image of Spain and heightened the Ilustrados' growing desire to set their homeland free from tyranny and to spread equality. So since they were unsatisfied and feeling strange towards the Spain and its tropical climate, it motivates them to fight for the victory. They were eager to get back their home country and set their homeland free from tyranny and spread equality. Including calamities. A hindrance to Ilustrados' longing for a tropical climate was the possibility of encountering human suffering because of natural calamities at home. Nevertheless, The wealthy Illustrados did not allow such calamities to hinder their desire for the tropical climate. They had lived through many typhoons before their stay in Europe, but because they lived in large, durable houses, unlike the poor, these youth might not have experienced directly the severe horrors of typhoons. Amid their goal of modernity, they did not partake in the modernist aspiration of moderation. The natives' resilience to calamities back home was incorporated in the poetry equilibrating the dynamics of nature.
Homogenized tropics cosmopolitan climate. European countries have always viewed the tropics as the home of the natural abundance of resources. As the Ilustrados ventured to the foreign land, they had seen the numerous tropical islands of the country and the neighboring nations. The Ilustrados included in their writings the territoriality of climate and did not limit their views to the national weather. The 19th century was loaded with territorial assumptions to acquire vast amounts of natural resources. Acquiring resources and large natural deposits was a basis of multicultural equality with the colonial masters. Filipinos who owned great resources in the Philippines could mingle with the Spaniards because of the amount of wealth that they possessed. Political exiles in Europe sought a glance of the warm sun in their tropical homes. Being a part of the tropics built the separation between the foreign people and the Filipinos. Nevertheless, it is without grace when genius is depicted. The Ilustrados' longing for the tropical lands was a marked increased political perspective, a perspective to overturn the Spanish regime from the tropics. The desires of Rizal for the tropics ceased when he was faced with the great prejudice coming from the Spaniards that he exposed in his writing the No Limit Tangere. In 1887, a reverse thinking shook Rizal when he later on realized the value of getting closer to the enemies than having them an ocean apart. Being Crisostomo Ibarra, the main character of his novel, Rizal's Homecoming was faced with the great distress shown in the novel. As stated, Crisostomo confronted the demon of comparison on his return to Manila, the demon of comparing his homeland with a foreign land. Nonetheless, Rizal decided to end his romanticism about the Philippines and return to Spain to be with the Ilustrados as they drew closest to their enemy because of the hostile climate in the Philippines. Rizal has seen that it was the colonial rule that made the Filipinos indolent or lazy. In comparison to the climate, colonialism was viewed by Rizal as a far greater calamity than that of a real storm.